Help me!
The whisper was a ghost on the wind. It coiled around the car like a serpent made of ice. James gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. The blizzard showed no mercy. Snow fell in thick, blinding sheets across the desolate northern moorland. It was February of 1986, and the world outside their sputtering Austin metro had vanished into a vortex of white. The heater had given up an hour ago, its last breath a pathetic puff of cold air. Sarah, wrapped in every spare piece of clothing they had, shivered beside him, her gaze lost in the swirling chaos. They were hopelessly lost, a tiny forgotten island in a sea of unforgiving winter. Just as despair began to settle in, a faint light pierced the gloom. It was a weak, flickering yellow, but it was a beacon. James steered towards it, hope a fragile ember in his chest.
There, do you see that? A light. Maybe it's a house or an inn.
The light belonged to an old inn, the Bleakwater Arms. It stood hunched against the storm, its stone walls dark with age and its slate roof sagging under the weight of the snow. The sign creaked on rusted chains, a mournful sound that sang a duet with the howling wind. It looked less like a sanctuary, and more like a tombstone marking the end of the road. But it was shelter. It was their only choice. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of damp wood and stale beer. A fire crackled weakly in a cavernous hearth, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to have a life of their own.
You'll be wanting a room for the night, I suppose.
The innkeeper, a gaunt man named Elias, eyed them from behind the bar. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, and his eyes held a weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. He moved with a slow, deliberate gait, as if carrying an unseen weight. He agreed to give them a room for the night, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that seemed to come from deep within the inn's ancient foundations. As Elias led them up a creaking staircase, he paused before a door at the end of the hall. The number on it was a tarnished brass 313. A heavy chain and a large rusty padlock secured it shut.
This one's not for use.
He offered no explanation, but his eyes lingered on the door for a moment too long, a flicker of something dark and ancient passing through them.
Your room is just here. Stay warm and stay put. The storm is not the only thing that makes noise in this old place at night.
The room they were given was Spartan but clean. A single window looked out into the white abyss of the storm. The wind rattled the glass, a constant, unnerving percussion. James and Sarah tried to settle in, the innkeeper's strange warning echoing in their minds. The old building groaned around them, each creak and pop of the timber a potential footstep, each sigh of the wind a potential voice. Sleep was a distant country they could not reach. They lay in the darkness, listening, waiting for a dawn that felt a lifetime away. The silence between the groans was somehow louder, heavier, filled with an unspoken dread that seeped from the very wallpaper. Then it began again, a whisper, so faint it was almost imaginary.
Help me.
It was the same voice from the storm, but now it was inside with them. It seemed to come from the wall they shared with the forbidden room 313. Sarah sat bolt upright, her heart hammering against her ribs.
Did you hear that?
James had heard it too. It was not the wind. It was a plea, a thread of sound so full of sorrow it made the cold air in the room feel even colder. It was the sound of a trapped thing, a voice lost between worlds. The whispers grew more frequent as the night deepened. Sometimes it was the same desperate plea. Other times it was a soft, mournful weeping that seemed to seep through the plaster. They heard a faint scratching from the other side of the wall, like fingernails dragging slowly down wood. James pressed his ear against the cold surface, listening intently. The sounds were undeniable. They were real. They were close. The innkeeper's warning was no longer just a strange remark from an eccentric old man. It was a prophecy unfolding in the dark, and they were the unwilling audience to its chilling performance. Unable to bear the suspense, James decided to investigate.
Sarah, stay here. Lock the door behind me. I'll be right back. I just need to know what's making those sounds.
The hallway outside their room was a tunnel of blackness, the fire from the lobby long since extinguished. The air was frigid, and a profound silence had fallen, a silence that felt watchful and intelligent. He crept towards the end of the hall, his every step a thunderclap in the oppressive quiet, his destination the chained and padlocked door of room 313. The padlock on room 313 was ancient and formidable. It mocked James's attempts to pry it open with a small pocket knife. The chain was thick, its links fused by rust and time. Frustration mounted within him, mingling with the chilling fear that had taken root in his soul. The whispers had stopped, but the silence that replaced them was worse. It felt like the inn was holding its breath, waiting. He ran his hand along the doorframe, the wood cold and splintered beneath his touch. There was a story here, a dark secret that Elias and the inn itself were determined to keep buried behind this impenetrable barrier. Defeated, James returned to their room, the mystery of room 313 looming larger than ever.
I couldn't get it open. The lock's too old, too solid. It's like it doesn't want to be disturbed.
As he recounted his failure to Sarah, her eyes drifted to a large, dark oak wardrobe standing against the wall they shared with the locked room. It was a monstrous piece of furniture, ornately carved and imposing. An idea, born of desperation, sparked in her mind.
What if the wardrobe is hiding something? The sounds were so clear. Maybe there's a way through.
It seemed absurd, a notion from a children's adventure story, but in this place the absurd felt plausible. Together they pushed against the heavy wardrobe. It resisted at first, groaning in protest as its feet scraped against the floorboards. But then, with a final concerted shove, it moved. And behind it, revealed in the faint moonlight that now filtered through the window, was a small, dark opening in the wall. It wasn't a doorway,